I have to say it's one of the best days of my life. First of all, you get there and you guys are sitting with the commissioner on stools in a barn discussing policy. So I love policy, but I love doing it in a barn. And this is a really special day because it's so very important. So it's really an honor to be here at PACE. I want to thank Bob Lewis. Jennifer's amazing. She's a farmer, she's a lawyer, and her colleagues are all phenomenal. So you can't imagine how great this room is of all of you. It's very, very special. And I want to thank Bob because last week I saw him in the stall at Fulton Market, and I bought something. I didn't know what the hell it was. I had to buy something, and it was delicious. It was a concoction of like Brown Betty or something. It was so good.
Apple crisp.
Thank you. Apple crisp. It was delicious. I had people coming for dinner, and since I'm never organized, perfect. And I also want to thank Kate McKenzie for being here. She's the new head of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy. We're very, very excited. And having the commissioner here, he and I were definitely marching around the Watershed. But I am certainly a supportive of the farmers. There's a long story which Bob knows, which is I grew up with the Benepis. Of course, Barry with Bob and others, I'm sure, but I give them credit, are the founders of the Green Market. And my grandfather and Barry's father were best friends. My father and Barry, and now here we go, next generation. So there's that history, and of course his parents were really upset because he wasn't a banker or a lawyer. He was just an architect from MIT starting a farm growing operation, and look what it's turned into. His father would be happy, I think, and he rests in peace. So that's the history for me, a little bit. I have cousins in Geneva, and we spend every summer there, so at least I understand what a cow is. So this is important, the Watershed, and I also want to say that, yes, we certainly went on the Watershed farm tour, but even when I was in the city council with Shula Warren Puder, who's here from our office, we took city agencies on a farm tour when I was in the city council and even before the Watershed tour, just to see how city agencies should be purchasing from farmers. So then we could in fact end up with farmers all across the state being part of, as we've heard earlier, the revolution in terms of farming. Nothing is better than the relationship between upstate and downstate in terms of food, and that's what we're trying to do. So I think, how do we go about that? That's really the question. I have to say, I think I have a sense of some of the issues because even under Al Alperton, who was one of your predecessors, when I worked for Mayor Dinkins, we went up and had a farm tour and saw the Watershed and the Catskills issues. And it's a hard job that DEP has because it's really dealing with developers, it's dealing with no tax base if we buy the land. And the amazing fact is you've managed to turn that around and say we can make it advantageous to the farmers. I really want to say, I don't think people know enough about how hard it is to keep the water pristine, how hard it is to make sure that the farmers get what they need, and at the same time the city of New York gets what they need. This is a really hard balancing act. And so the fact that you're all here says even more about it and how impressive it is that you are here. So what we have tried to do, in addition to being supportive of Grow NYC and all of the work in terms of the markets, in 2011, we introduced Local Law 50, which uses the word encourages. I would love the word mandates, but encourages, that's all I could get, city agencies and vendors to purchase food grown or produced in New York State by establishing tools to push agencies toward that local procurement. The law requires the city's chief procurement officer to provide an annual report of the efforts during the preceding fiscal year to implement the city guidelines for the purchase of New York State food. Now, we can talk later in the workshops about how effective this is. It's very little frustrating to me, to be honest with you, about what hasn't been done, but at least that encourages is there. We also passed Local Law 52 in 2011, which directs the annual city good system metrics report to track the amount of money spent on local or regionally sourced food. This helps us to keep up with trends, map out and quantify the problem so as to tackle it in a better system. And that's why I support Intro 1660 of 2019, which seeks to build upon local laws 50 and 52 to create a good food purchasing program that encourages food procurement motivated by environmental sustainability, local economics, health, valued workforce, and animal welfare. So these are all a little bit of mushy, but what the issue is for me, how do we get the city of New York to purchase from the state of New York? And that's what we are all aiming toward. For whatever reason, it's been challenging. I think the state of New York has been, and those in the room know better than I know, for instance, years ago when I was meeting with Commissioner Ball, who of course is head of Ag and Markets, a wonderful carrot farmer, who's also a commissioner, and he has managed to work with correction. They had, at one point, the bid had said a certain kind of onion, which was only grown in California. What the hell? So they changed it, the RFP, to say a certain kind of onion grown in New York, and hello, now you have a purchase that is for the farmers of the state of New York, and they had to purchase a different onion cutter, but that's a whole nother story. But in the end, they ended up with, for the State Department of Correction, that's what is being purchased and used in the correction. In New York, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services in the city does a lot of the purchasing for a lot of the different agencies. And then Health and Hospitals does their own Department of Education, which has been working on this topic because we are all over them. But you can see that there are disconnected purchasing. That's another challenge. And in the city of New York, like on the state, you have to stay within a certain dollar figure, sometimes mandated by the feds, sometimes mandated by the state, sometimes by the city. So there are lots of different challenges, but we need to overcome them. And that's, I think, a big goal of this conference. So that's one aspect, is purchase by the city. The second is, just so you know what we've been doing, I'm a big believer in the world of seniors and fresh food. Seniors in New York City, they get around. It's amazing how they do, sometimes with their walkers, their wheelchairs, their canes, and they just get around. It's always impressive for me. So what we've been doing is, for the last, almost 10 years since I was in the city council, for $8 a bag, working with Grow NYC, we end up with seniors purchasing the week before, and then they pick it up either for their senior center, or sometimes we deliver it to their block, and somebody who's got a nice doorman holds onto the food and the seniors come pick it up. That's an amazing program. It's usually a $20 value. You cannot imagine how much these seniors from the top of Manhattan, all the way northern Harlem, Washington Heights, Roosevelt Island, oh my God, they just love it, all the way down to working with Councilmember Chin, and in the Battery Park area, financial district. Something the government is doing for them. That's how they look at it, because they think government doesn't do much for them. And this is a huge asset. So this season, 5,120 bags for the seniors, and we've contributed 41,000 for the farmers in terms of fruits and vegetables, some local farms, Catskills and on. This is a great partner. It's Grow NYC's wholesale program. It's a phenomenal partner, and it helps, thank you. It's just great for the farmers and for all of us. And the seniors, you run into a senior on the street, and the first thing they'll say to me is not about their Medicaid, their health, their housing. They just talk about the food. That's how important it is. So it's all of these issues. We obviously have worked on other things in terms of yesterday, for instance, we had a senior program, which we do every year with 500 seniors coming about how you can age artfully in the borough of Manhattan. And the prize, if you filled out the survey, was a bag of fresh fruits and vegetables in a lottery system. Every single friggin' survey was filled out. That's how important this issue is for people, even though they may not know that this is something that's so important. When they get it, they can't get rid of it, and we give them, obviously, recipes. They talk about this everywhere. So there is a way that we can make this happen, so that more people get fresh fruits and vegetables from the state of New York. We need to expand New Yorkers' access to healthy, fresh, and locally sourced food. And I just want to conclude by going back one more time to the city of New York, because it is something that I hope out of this conference we come up with some ideas how we can accomplish that. We've also worked on summer food, the issue of figuring out how during the summer, the Department of Education can indicate to the families that federal dollars are paying for the summer food. Believe it or not, even though you hear that 18 years and younger can eat all summer, breakfast and lunch, at different locations around the city of New York, schools, recreation centers, NYCHA buildings. People, A, don't know, and B, don't take advantage of it, and the city pays nothing, and we're still talking about making sure that people can eat. It's not necessarily local, but that's something that we can work on. So I am ecstatic to be here. I must admit, I'm looking for help to make sure that this way in which we can help farmers from the entire state, all the way into the Adirondacks, to Seneca, because I think it's harder for those farmers to get the work at the green market. So I wish you all a productive conference, and again, I'm really, really honored to be here. Thank you very much.